And we're on the air. There you go. Well, folks, welcome back to another Friday chat, and it's pretty quiet today, apparently. We had an announcement of Panda coming out a few hours ago, or somebody talking about it, actually. When did this guy post this? I don't know. Yesterday, 7:05 p.m., so I'm sorry. Apparently, Panda's been rolling around since last night. None of us knew. It shows how much we care. And Terry, as we were discussing before the show, it looks like a adaptation, a new rollout as opposed to a refresh, thus they're making a statement, I assume.
Yep. More than a refresh, so, phone should start ringing tomorrow.
Yeah, well, I'm figuring everyone's off checking their analytics, that's why it's so quiet. All right, so today Terry's taking the reins for a while, and we're going to be getting into, I guess, Terry, should we go into some of at least why the motivation was there as far as the old argument that, you can't put standards or whatever and these kind of things on SEO, and we've always sort of been of the mind there are certain elements that, every SEO should know that are fairly common knowledge that aren't, change from one engine to another a whole bunch, doesn't get affected by a lot of penalties and stuff like that. So the core elements of how SEO search works, right?
There are things that basically haven't changed in 20 years. Well, up until, this year, and 2011, basically. When, in 2010, when caffeine started running, that's when things actually changed a bit. But the core elements of indexation and visibility have not changed very much. So the techniques to do both have not changed much over the years.
I was going to say, the technology changed, but the concepts tend to stay the same for the most part.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Basically, how they do it is a little bit different. With in 2010, with the caffeine update, they added parallel indexing, which changed the whole dynamic of crawl and indexation being two separate processes. They're almost going on at the same time, which allowed Google to put results directly into the, to put new data directly into the results immediately. Like with, I've seen stuff that's a second or two old, like really new.
Yeah, and I think we even talked before we started about Big Daddy in 06, which seems like the forefather to that, when they stopped monthly crawls and refreshes as much as they were real-time search. In 07, the real-time came out. It seems like that's just a constant evolution from that point.
Yeah,
but again,
same
job, better technology.
Yeah, and I think with Big Daddy, that's when we kind of realized that, no linky into a page, it's going to be pretty hard to get that page into the, it almost doesn't exist at Google without a link into it. Which
is about the same as when you robot a page out and link to it. It does exist to them no matter what you say. So,
right.
All right, where did you want to start, brother?
Well, I wanted to start also by saying that one of the reasons that I chose this topic is people who know me really well know that since about 2003, I believe that there should be basically a bar set for people to call themselves an SEO. What we're going to start today is kind of starting down that road again by identifying what we can use in, say, a pseudo certification or a way to set a bar, because most of what is in the slides today came right off of Google, how Google search works.
So basically, if you don't know how crawling and indexing even works, then you should be interning somewhere.
Yeah, you're not an SEO, you're a link builder, basically. Yeah. Those are the basics. That's why when you remember when people started talking in the dojo about how Facebook is affecting and, they started talking about causation and how we kind of, cut that quickly by just going to robots.txt and explaining to them that it's robot text. There's no way Google can be using these things in its algorithm because they can't index them, so they don't know about them. So understanding visibility really is important to understanding things like that. And that's a hole that's a hole in the knowledge of newer people to the industry that I noticed very quickly with a lot of people, because they just take for granted how these things work. Guys like yourself and Dan and, you know, the people that were around when I started, none of that information was available. We had to learn it, you know, about how a search engine works. Now, you know, they tell you how they work right in a, you know, nice long post with lots of information. So that's the thing. So basically, I'm going to demonstrate how almost everything to do with visibility and indexation is testable and could be used in setting a standard for certification or some sort of bar for SEOs, to where my hope is we can at some point get together and decide on that which can be tested and which can't, and then kind of set up standardized testing, a la how Microsoft does it for their devs and stuff. And that would require, you know, as you, myself, people from Sempo, and the other groups out there like Aaron Walls and Rands have talked about, all of us getting together and trying to do something like that. I think that would make it possible. But we'll see.
You know me, dude. SEOs that don't even know what page segmentation is and stuff like that irritate me. So, you know.
And that's like
it's just the way it is.
That's what we have.
It's like, you know, everyone just shares crazy ass ranking factor posts, but nobody digs into the rest. You know, it's like,
the basics.
So,
I guess
it'd be nice to, you know, and these are concepts.
Well, I think everyone thinks that everyone knows this stuff, and they don't really need to go over it. But you know, when we start troubleshooting other people's work, we know they don't really understand, you know, how they got into where they did, because they did not really understand how the search engine worked. So anyhow,
well, and there you go. And that's where all these misguided posts come from, is a lack of understanding of how things work. So before we get started, let's see. Dan Manahan wants to know what's the bar. Dan, well, you know, we're going to start a bar. The SEO bar.
We're going to start
and
the bar.
William Rock is... William Rock is happy we're not swearing too much. There you go.
There you go. Okay, so I'm going to put on the screen.
All right, so where are we starting, man? Yeah, might as well. Let's give it a go.
Okay, so you'll see I got the PowerPoint open here, and it's basically about managing indexation and content visibility today, or how a search engine works. And basically, most of the information here, it was taken directly off of Google's site, and off of a page that was called "How a Search Engine Works," or "How Google Works," actually. So this
they should send that over to the German government.
Yeah, I was thinking of that the other day. So, as you can see here, a quote from how Google search works is, in the simplest terms, you could think of searching the web as looking in a very large book with an impressive index telling you exactly where everything is located. And when you perform a Google search, our programs check the index for the most relevant terms. I think it's pretty important to understand that that's the simplest terms. Like, you know, doesn't get much simpler than that. But there are components of search, and these are really important.
I always told people too that so many of the forefathers of modern information retrieval are librarians and people like that. Even when talking to various Googlers and stuff, they'll talk, oh yeah, this librarian and that. So it's an extension of the offline version of this. You know what I mean? Which is what libraries do, decimal systems and things of that nature, making it easier to find information quicker. And that's kind of the basis. And then just exploded obviously with computers and internet. So.
Yeah, for sure. That is true. And it was at first kind of based on that kind of system as well. So keep pushing what's on the in the browser rather than the. So crawl management is important, and crawling is the process by which Google discovers new and updated pages to the Google index. So basically, they start with a list of web pages generated from previous crawls and sitemap data provided by webmasters. That's important because the metadata that's in sitemaps is used by Google as well. So that's when sitemaps were first introduced, I didn't use them because, well, my sites didn't need a sitemap because I actually built them so that it was not needed. I also didn't use HTML sitemaps for the same reason. I just saw them as crutches, and if Google started indexing and finding pages from there, I felt that it was starting at a lower PR or less link equity coming into that page rather than discovering it on the home page. So
yeah, I certainly go with XML ones these days. I've never, like you, I've never been a fan of the HTML version. Your site should be easy to navigate and not need that.
It should be easy, right?
Especially a larger site, you know what I mean? Remember the HTML sitemaps used to be like,
yeah.
Well, no thanks, useless.
Well, that's it too. Any decent site, you've got too many links, and it becomes really hard to use by a user. So that was another reason for not using them.
Yeah, for sure. XML, sure. I don't mind those. But,
yeah, and I use. I went to XML.
And even video sitemaps. You and I looked at them.
Yeah, they'll be coming up. I have a special section on sitemaps. So managing the spiders is very important as well. For most sites, Google shouldn't access your site more than once every few seconds, shouldn't download more than one copy of each page at a time. And one thing to really keep in mind is that you can adjust the crawl rate by using the option in your Google Webmaster Tools.
And why would someone want to do that?
Because Google is having, if Google tries to crawl the site too fast, it starts dropping pages and stuff. The server doesn't work properly. So managing the crawl rate, this is basically a slide that tells you how to go into Webmaster Tools and adjust your crawl rate. Now, remember, the new crawl rate will be valid for 90 days. So if this is a real chronic problem, remember that every 90 days, you're going to have to go in and change that. So it's probably not the best way to manage that. I would suggest looking at something more than $2 or $3 for hosting. That would probably be a start. One of the most important things that an SEO should learn is how to manage page crawl. For me, this is one thing that's a lost art in our business. And you know it's a lost art when you see so many pages with 100 links in the fucking footer. Excuse my language. you know, and a couple hundred links in their fixed navigation at the top of the page.
Gotta have that, baby. Yeah.
In their navigation.
Gotta have those big ass navigations. Yep.
Yeah.
Very important.
You know, first of all, there's when you're getting into that many links on a page, it becomes problematic, and you know, dilute your link equity that you're passing down the site. There's so many parts of that. That's why if I do need a big ass navigation on there, meaning if I need it, someone else has forced me to do it, then I'll meet them halfway by saying, okay, but I'm not putting it on the homepage. Basically, that's where most of your link equity is. That's the main one. You don't want to dilute. The others, probably not as big a deal. Or maybe a bigger deal because they have less to spread it out across. So either way, I'm not a big fan, and I'd rather have less links like that and then have hub pages, which is a much better way to do that. If you don't understand hub pages, that's in a few lessons down the way, eh, Dave?
Yeah. All right. Where are we off to?
Okay, so.
But yeah, architecture and internal link equity, I guess, what Terry just touched on is also, yeah, it's huge as far as crawl rates and things like that go. But I'm sure we're getting there anyways. So.
Yeah. And you gotta also understand that, you know, the main way that Google picks up and finds stuff is through links. So when I was going through the, you know, how to manage your page, page crawl, one of the things I immediately thought of that has changed since Google originally wrote this is that after 2010, Google changed the way, you know, they started the parallel indexing, which means that changed slightly how things happened on the page. And that further was changed more in 2014, this year, summer, when Google announced basically that they only index the rendered page. If you see here, I put a big note in really, you know, bold, whatever, just trying to make you aware that you need to make sure that your divs and the information or copy or whatever content you want to be found on the page, if it's in divs that are display none, quite often that can result in the
yeah, at very least it's going to make a mess.
yeah, well, it's not you're taking a chance that that information is not going to be indexed. Now it's I would say that when you're starting when you're checking important pages, I would actually go to Googlebot and run it, because now it shows you the rendered page that Googlebot sees. That's pretty important. So check your templates, and then on really important pages that you're trying to rank, I would run them through just to, you know, be sure that what you want to be indexed is going to end up indexed. Another thing that you can do is you can manipulate your page crawl with code. Dan probably knows this. I'm not sure if Dave knows this, but in the old days when we used tables, you used a empty cell before the main copy in your margin. That way your navigation was below the was indexed after the content copy was indexed, because Google basically followed those followed the code on the page, and so it basically didn't index that margin until after it had finished the copy, which pushed your main content.
Everyone used to play around with source ordering too as well. You know what I mean? Like there was lots of that, but yeah, with the rendered page, you don't have that so much.
Yeah, those kind of things, I am less inclined to think will actually do much now. I think Google's figured a lot of things out, and they're doing a lot of things using that rendered page anyhow. For instance, we'll talk about in another day about titles and how they've gone from measuring it in characters to it actually being a pixel width that is displayed, so you can't really use characters because each character is actually, when it's letters, a different size. So character may be bigger than a pixel kind of deal. So it's important that you check both ways. However, I would argue that the actual weighting of the elements in that title are weighted by character. So it's not about what's displaying, it's about what Google knows. Is it what Google is indexing and using for ranking period purposes in the title, or any element for that matter. Okay. Another thing that is really important to crawl is the crawl budget. Now, this is something that has become talked about more and more, Dave?
Oh yeah, man, it was an unknown concept not too long ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, but I'm hoping that I actually unearthed I searched Google and found some very interesting interview between Eric Ng and Matt Cutts on crawl budget. So I'm going to share what I kind of took from that, and that will explain a lot more about how the crawl budget actually works. I think there are a few things that you need to realize about the crawl budget before we actually get into how it works. And that is that you should be monitoring your 404s from external domains, meaning basically one way to exploit the crawl budget is for negative SEO is to link to a bunch of non-existent pages, and unfortunately that causes Google to go and request them. But in other cases, for instance, Dave found instances where the CMS actually would make a page for any
Yeah, well, there's even I've seen all kinds of wild server setups that'll do wildcards. Oh yeah, man.
Yes, yeah. And what happened was when people want to do the negative SEO, that's how they exploited it, and made it even worse was by using. Yeah, right. Yeah.
Terry's House of Horrors. Can we help you? How are you today?
Hello.
Hello, sir. We would like to fix your computer. Can you give us access to your desktop?
Yeah. We're calling from Windows.
Your desktop with us?
Yeah. We're calling
Windows.
from
I'm calling from the Windows.
Yes.
The Windows. Yes, that is right, sir. And we would like you to share your computer access with us. We have some very important updates to do. All right.
Yeah, so basically watch for 404s and especially from external domains where they're Russian and Chinese. You may quite likely be under attack if that's the case. So managing the crawl budget, I found this interview, and this is one of the first things that kind of got my attention from the interview. And That's because one of the members of the dojo, I'm not going to say any names, insists that there is a cap. This is right from the horse's mouth. I'd like to believe him, but I'm going to go with this.
I don't, yeah, how do you do that? Because, again, the only sort of pseudo cap you could have is based upon how you satisfied the crawl elements, meaning length and so on and so on, how many new pages a day, et cetera, et cetera. You know, I don't think, you know, I've worked with sites with billions of pages. There's no cap that I saw, you know what I mean? They've got billions of freaking pages.
Right. If there's a cap, it's self-induced. That's basically.
That's it. Exactly. Yeah, it's not Google saying, well, that's all we're giving you. It's what they're going to give you based upon your crawl. Oh, Jesus, Steve, turn down the fucking radio. There we go.
Sorry, dude.
No worries.
Man.
No worries.
That's working.
All right, Terry, back to wherever you were there, buddy.
Okay, so there is no hard limit. This is another quote from Matt out of the same interview, and basically saying that there is no hard limit on the crawl, so there is no maximum amount of pages that they'll do on a site. And basically, he says that, you know, they follow your own rank, the way you set up your own site. So another lost art is the art of actually showing Google what are the most important pages on your website. You actually do that every time you link to a page. You're telling Google, I think this is important. So that affects crawl budget as well. So you need to think that, take that into consideration as well. And of course, as you get deeper and deeper into your site, page rate tends to decline, and adversely, you get less crawl down there. So it all makes sense. It's all based on that. And however, if you have one way to get more of those pages in that area that like deeper into your site is from incoming links, which you know, that's why all of a sudden there was such a rush to get all these deep links. Of course, that's a big part of the old Penguin algorithm. So that's what that got you.
Yeah, and I think there's a temporality element on top of the page rank qualifiers. You know what I mean? Like, if you've got a lack of freaking links and high page rank, but you're not actively adding new content, maybe like my site or something, you know, I think that's going to affect crawl recency and depth.
Oh yeah, that's coming up today.
Sure. Oh, okay, all right, cool.
That comes a little bit of an explanation of that later. So another thing that he mentioned was that the concept of host load, basically meaning that some servers will take more continuous, simultaneous connections. So if you're on a virtual server, I think that could affect your crawl budget. And again, he's just talking about how duplicate content and affects. Oh, sorry, wrong slide. I'm not reading the one I'm on. My bad. Sorry about that. So basically, he's telling you to be. This one is more about the hosting, and you know, basically, my tip there was be careful of virtual hosting. For many reasons, this is just one of them. Okay, so another part of the crawl budget that I think people really don't understand is that duplication is really going to hurt you as well. So when you have duplicate content, it's not just going to affect you because it's duplicate. It actually screws up your crawl budget as well. So again, that's another reason for being very mindful of duplicate content.
Right, so, I mean, especially with these large sites that, where the writers tend to go a little nuts with the tags, you end up with, hundreds of tag pages. And then, is that being managed properly? Not only internal link equity issues, but just like you're saying, crawl budget, duplication issues. There are just so many reasons that there almost needs to be rules in place for your editors or your web developers or whoever to putting up content on a blog or whatever that has tags. You need some rules in place. No more than 3 tags. Here are the approved tags, etc., etc. Don't just let them go in there and throw 20 on it.
Yeah. When I'm using OpenCart, for instance, they have the tags on the pages, right, Dave? I always go in and remove that from the code so that I can input the data for the tags and they're used in the search, but they don't actually create tag pages. So there's, for anybody using OC, very simple to do. You just open up the main file and hack away. So this explains a little bit more how the duplicate stuff works. And the thing that I found very interesting on this was that duplicates transfer the incoming link juice to the merged pages. So when they're duplicate pages, Google will try and merge them, even when they're on different domains. So, in this case, I've got a note. I was not able to find the link today, but I will be adding it later, where Dan Petrovic has written about this phenomena of basically scraping content. People who scrape content, if they outrank you, they could be siphoning page rank off of your pages. So,
but you can put a canonical on your own page, and that kills that siphoning.
Well,
right?
that's what the smart people do. Yeah, I agree, Steve. But if you don't, this is what can happen. And I think for a lot of people, myself included, I don't rush to put canonicals on anything.
No, I don't put them on any. I mean, why would you on an original piece of content that doesn't have it's not a product of a search result, right?
Right. But this is what Dan found, was that when he scraped content, it actually transferred page rank from other sites to him, to his page, because they consolidate all the copies.
Well, at some point, if you have 10 pieces of content, all scraped and all going to one place, eventually the one place that has the links to all 10 becomes the authoritative for all 10 pieces of crap, right?
No, the one that ranks highest probably does for the terms. Okay. So these are some tips that I use for the crawl. And, whenever I want something crawled immediately, use fetches Google. And again, I'll remind you that also shows you the rendered version, which that's what Google now indexes. I also like to, Steve, you may know more about this than I, but from the old days, I know we tried to limit our parameters to 3. I think that's still a good idea, but have you seen higher numbers indexed thoroughly, or?
Well, I mean, the thing is, the other part is realize Webmaster Tools wants you to take all that stuff out anyway.
Right, if it's not crucial to the page, right?
Well, but I mean, even the same way, but normally they want you, Google's preferred thing would be to, instead of actually having a session variable show up live, that you would have something that is actually not a session variable, but a parsed URL.
Right. They don't. They definitely avoid pages with, even in the very old days, even though ID in the parameter name would
Right.
screw up the indexing. What I was really asking you, Steve, is
Uh-huh.
if you've seen pages indexed that have more than 3 parameters, like thoroughly.
Yeah.
So they
Amazon
have
Best
improved
Buy.
that some then.
Amazon Best Buy, if they're not doing the parsing.
Okay, so there we go. That's less of an issue than it was. I was mainly going on my own experience, which is
Right.
old, and now I don't know. I
Well,
haven't
I
left
think
a parameter in a URL for years, literally.
interesting. So, I think it's close to the same thing. So, I mean, but if you've got the URL parsed and you're canonicaling that page to that URL because you have ID parameters, and if you filter out all your ID parameters in Google, it will index the parsed URL and ignore the one with all the parameters.
Right. So, the canonical gets around that issue too then. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you. I'm going to make a note to add that to my... Okay, so to me, the discovery is one of the SEO's biggest jobs. And there's many ways to getting your content discovered and managing that discovery. But the key is to managing the visibility of your contents, and search engines will find most of the content on the top 3 levels. When you start going deeper than that, that's when you're going to require probably more incoming links to really get it indexed thoroughly.
Right.
And as you can see, I made the note that upon discovery, it basically keeps track of all the links on each page and that's how they build that list that we talked about earlier. And then it makes notes of new sites it finds, changes to existing sites, and dead links are noted and used to update the Google index. See, the important thing about the dead links are if you 410 pages, I use this strategy a lot in cleanup. I'll 410 pages on a website to kind of induce, kind of get Google to process the URLs that were removed off the site, process the URLs that are pointing to them in the disavow file. I found that to work. I can't prove it, but that is one way that I've seen to get some quicker penguin relief. That getting pages indexed. Personally, there's a piece coming up that, I don't believe that you necessarily have to, Google doesn't necessarily have to run Penguin for you to get out of it. I'm convinced that they say that because they're blocking indexing to those pages. And so if you can induce indexing of those pages, it will process the Penguin issues around those pages. But only those, not totally. So, there you go. So another path to sitemaps are another path to content discovery. And like I said, I never used them in the early days. Now I use them on every site. When I realized that they were using the metadata in them, it made a lot of sense. It outweighed one of the main reasons that I didn't use them was I also was smart enough to realize, how about I considered the fact that when I put a sitemap on my website, other webmasters can go and look at that metadata and collect information that they could use on their own website. So that's one of the reasons that in the past I didn't care to use it. Now I believe that sitemaps aid in a lot of ways. And when we get talking about some other types of sitemaps, we'll see where it's very important, the sitemap, to getting visibility in the search. So this slide, basically, I'm not going to read it all out to you. You can kind of read it if you want, but basically it's a slide that's telling you how Googlebot basically does this. So the reasons that you would need a sitemap is if your site is really large, you have content pages that are isolated or not linked to very well, your site is new and has few external links to it, and your site uses rich media content. That's important. For one thing, you'll see that Google will only include sites in the SERPs.
There was even one there on the last page about your site is really large, and I think that's worth mentioning, people. Just because you launch a site and slap 5,000 products in it out of the gate, don't expect it all to get crawled, because you don't have the page rank, you don't have the other equity elements needed to get that depth of a crawl. It's just not going to happen, you know what I mean? So I think that was actually kind of worth noting to people, because you see that on forums a lot back in the day, why aren't all my pages getting crawled? I don't know, how old's your site? 2 weeks. Well, just saying.
Yeah.
You have no budget.
Right.
Well, I mean, sitemap is like the first thing you do when you get a site from somebody or a client. You go put the Webmaster Tools code in. Second thing you do is you compile a sitemap if they've got their structure right. You know what I mean? As soon as you do a website redesign for a client ever, next thing you've done is, as soon as they've got the new design up, you've made sure your Google tagging's there, and you've gone in and updated the sitemap with the new site as soon as possible. Am I wrong?
Well, I don't rush for it. I've waited a while to do it in my case.
Situational, I guess, really, isn't it?
Good feedback.
Oh, that's wanted. So these are some other considerations that you use as we've taught. Steve mentioned using recommended canonicalization methods. They're gonna help with your sitemap, your whole visibility and indexing. So. Whoops, skip that view here.
Have a 1 o'clock. Take care, guys. Thanks.
Someone leaving? No. Dan and Steve both.
Thanks, Steve. Lagged out there.
Yeah.
Boink.
Okay, so to go on from there, some more best practices are you can use Google. Google uses metadata from other types of from different types of sitemaps as well. Video, image, and mobile for one. So for a couple. So it's good to separate and have separate maps for each product or each type of sitemap. for each type of content. For instance, Screaming Frog, for one, just started doing PDFs. What the hell is that? So having those...
Someone's typing, and maybe it's the other Steve.
I'm not sure what's going on. Hello.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah. Anyhow, there's some more information here about best practices. Basically, that you should have sitemap for each type of your content, and just if you're using Screaming Frog, be aware that it does not collect video content for it wasn't doing PDFs. It does now. So the tip that I make here is that one of the ways that you get your video into the SERPs when it's not on YouTube is you have to have a Google sitemap, and it will only work with a Google video sitemap to get your video that's not on YouTube in the SERP. That's a tip I picked up a while back from on Real SEO. I'm pretty sure it's still true. And of course, the easiest way is to put it on YouTube. Not only are you on the biggest search engine, but you're a lot more liable to get your video in the SERP using it.
Yeah, I'm with you there. You know what I mean? I think the video, because of its lack of text and what have you, you know what I mean? I think you need to definitely push that along. I think anything you can do to help your video get in there, go with it.
Yeah. Well, in video, image, and having a separate, I just realized this now that there's you should have a separate sitemap for mobile content, especially if your mobile content is different than your regular content, right?
Yeah, I guess. You know, I mean, I think with responsive design these days is not as big a deal. You know what I mean? But, yeah.
Right. But there may be pages that you don't want.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
That might be a way that you can. One way that you can stop it is to make, you know, not put it in your sitemap, or put it in the sitemap and put in a notation that it's not in mobile search, right? To disregard it. I don't, you know, by setting the importance and whatnot low on in the metadata. So the main thing to remember too is that use of a sitemap doesn't guarantee that pages are going to be crawled and indexed. So don't just rely on a sitemap. That's why good architecture is always the best sitemap you can have. Geez, I timed this pretty good. Okay, so
nice. Did you?
We'll just finish the crawling, and the hour will be up. So here's some more stuff on just how you build the sitemap, and there are some links to tools and hreflang, which is something that you should be putting in your annotations. So there you go. Some help in building the sitemap. Now we'll go on. Here's this one basically is about some rough information on you know, using multiple sitemaps. And once again, I got a link here to.
What is the limit? Is it like 10K, 50K? I forgot.
50,000.
50K, right? Yeah.
After that, yeah. I guess that's something I should add to, Dave?
I believe that's the cutoff point is 50K. Yeah.
Yeah,
After
I'm
that,
gonna.
multiple references.
Yeah, I'm talking about we should include this in one of the slides here. So.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, I believe it is 50K.
Yeah, I'm gonna verify
so you're
that
both
somewhere, and
seconds.
then I'll.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it is.
Yeah. So some other things to consider is it's got to be UTF-8 encoded. That's important. Not all. Not all are going to automatically do that. And again, talking about the canonicalization, link to that as well. So that's basically the outline on sitemaps. I think we've covered them pretty good, Dave? I don't think I've missed anything other than the limit per map.
No. Yeah. I think we got the point across.
Yeah, and this is something that I think I hope most people are using this method, and they're not just plunking their sitemap in their robots.txt and counting on that. I strongly would recommend that you use the Webmaster Tools sitemap page and upload your sitemaps from that page, and also get them to retrieve it and test it. So by testing it, when you're uploading the sitemap, you know it works, and Google has told you everything in this is working. So I've seen where messed up sitemaps were put on, and all of a sudden they're calling me and Dave and saying, "Where's all our traffic?" Well, there you go.
Yeah.
So I decided that it was also I wanted to include this page, Dave, because we talked about inducing the way, basically the easy way.
Well, I think this is a good list for careful what you share that you don't want indexed.
Well, that's coming up on how to block. Right now, I wanted to show that there's, besides the sitemap, I wanted to show that there are other ways to get Google to discover content and induce crawling. So there's, finding a link and finding your page that way. There's sitemaps. And, of course, there's these methods here. Anybody think of another one that's not on this list?
Social channels, maybe? Obviously.
That would be links from
still links. Yeah.
So that would be covered by that. I think that's pretty well.
Pretty much it.
There, Dave?
Yeah, I'd say.
Steve, is he still here?
No, the other Steve is here now. Laughing like a chipmunk.
He's probably playing Angry Birds.
I don't know.
Or that's screeching in the background. Maybe that's screeching in the background. There it is.
I don't know, maybe
screeching in the background.
I don't know, Steve. You sound like one of the chipmunks, man. I don't know what's going on with that. That's pretty funny. You'll have to watch that later, Steve, because, yeah, you sound like a chipmunk. Alvin. All right.
Anyhow, Steve hasn't given me a thumbs down that I've forgotten something, so I must be on cue there. Okay, so this is what you were...
Dan Manahan is asking, how does Google discover content in Gmail? Well, I guess it's still link-related. It's just not the traditional over-the-web kind of link, Dan. But, yeah, it's been known to happen. We've seen pages get indexed from dev servers and stuff, and the first thing and everyone's like, we've locked it down, we this and that, da-da-da. And you ask them, oh, well, were you sharing links with the rest of the team through Gmail? Yeah, it'll get picked up. seen numerous patents that they talk about, referencing places they can find content, including Gmail and elsewhere. So.
Well, and the how of it is, Dave, that it's known fact. Everything that comes into Gmail is sniffed by Google. So one of the things they do when they sniff your email, besides sniffing it to figure out what ads to show you, they're looking to see what links you're talking about. So that would be how they discover in Gmail. And I wanted to make that point because, as Dave said, we have people all the time. Well, everything's locked down. Well, that's what happens. Okay, so I think it's important to say that if you want stuff absolutely protected from Googlebot, don't rely on robots.txt or anything other than locking down the content in a password protected area. And of course, with Apache and pretty much all Unix servers, you can also do that in the hid access file. So there you go. That's the best way to block. To me, I blocked stuff from being indexed, but I've never blocked content that I just didn't want Google to see by using robots.txt. I always locked it down. Or
dude. Yeah, anytime I talk to people with dev servers and redeveloping a site or anything, and they start doing that, we'll just no index it. No, man, lock it down. Lock it down.
Yeah.
Do not, put it in a directory, password, protect that shit, and do not let Google anywhere near it. Yeah. So that's really ultimately the safe way as far as I'm concerned.
So this slide basically shows, talks about the no index meta tag, which is another way to block. Again, understand that, I'll have to find the link to it too. It's on SEO Pros for sure under our guidelines, basically. An old friend of mine, Alan Perkins, from the old I Help You forum days, he was a moderator there with us. He showed us how every search engine uses these robot text commands differently, especially when you're mixing no index and no follow. Here's the thing, folks. The thing that makes me laugh more than anything is looking at a page and seeing a robot's text that says content equals, and it's basically index follow. Just so you know, folks, that's the default. You do not have to include that robots tag in your page. That's a default setting. So in other words, if they don't see it, they assume it's index follow. I think that's pretty important to not use that tag when you don't have to, for the simple fact that not all search engines treat it exactly the same. So be very mindful of how you use it. And of course, one of the ways you can do it also is to opt out of having content that Google has crawled from your site displayed on various Google properties. There's the ones that they'll do it for, and again, they've said that they'll remove it within 30 days of opting out. So.
Good old Dan Manahan says, so if I send the link via Gmail, Google will follow that link and index it. It's entirely possible we've seen it happen.
Yes.
So yeah, you want something locked up completely. And again, but if it's robot texted out, it may show up in the index, but it won't have a meta description, but it will have the link to the page.
Right. Remember, this isn't this isn't actual indexing. It induces indexing. So of course, when it picks up the link, which probably it discovers the link in Gmail and probably just adds it to a, I would imagine, a seed or some sort of queue to be indexed. So again, it's only for discovery. And here's some more ways, basically talking about the, using robot text, which we touched on slightly, and this tells you where to put it, and that sort of thing, and also goes in, mentions that another way to prevent crawling, to block crawlers from a page, is to use the nofollow meta tag. The thing to remember about all of this stuff, right, is that just because you robot text a page, that will not stop it from being in the index. If there's a link to that page, people are going to be able to find out that that page is there. So you need to be very mindful about those sorts of things. Just because you have robot text, if you don't want people to know about the page, I would have a system in my work tasks where I would monthly check to see if stuff that I blocked in robot text that I didn't want in the Google index was staying out of the index. Because remember, as soon as someone links to robots text, that page is known about, right? So Google won't index it, won't give any information about it, but it still tells people that that page is there. And more so, it tells people that not only is that page there, for some reason you've blocked indexing of that page because it's secret. There you go. That's not a good idea, and you can get that removed using the method that comes up in a few slides forward.
I was going to say, okay. Well, shut up now.
So I just realized that I had maybe the slides a little out of order. So I got some additional tips here on robot text, that, texting, testing, using, again, Google has a robots text tool. So does robottext.org. Has a syntax tester. So does Google. It's just part of the upload, where you upload your sitemaps. And of course, again, you can use Fetch's Google bot to check to make sure that pages are not being indexed. Another way to check your syntax. So, as Dave was about to mention, there's a few ways that you can get pages removed from Google. I didn't want to talk about each one and all of the stuff about this particular part. So what I've done is just put a reference link to the topics, told you the different things that you can do from here as far as getting pages removed from Google. Most search engines have these types of options that for removal. One thing I forgot to add, Dave, is on the removal tool, it's got to be updated every 6 months, correct?
Last we heard, yes. For some reason, excuse me. Eat some chocolate. Yeah, for some crazy reason, apparently last we heard from Google that it takes 12 months to get out of the index, but you got to do the page removal twice, meaning once and then again in 6 months, then it fully takes effect. So yeah, be sure, like you were saying with the monitoring stuff, be sure to check them after 6 months to make sure they're not back.
Yeah, or have them on a list that you're kind of checking regularly to see if they're in the index. A tool you can use to do that is Link Prospector. Just saying. So now, do you want to go on to the indexation, Dave, or the hour's up and we can save that for another time?
Yeah, you want to beat up on it next week? Because, we basically got 20 minutes. I usually go about an hour and a half on Friday, but it's just the two of us. I think Ben just got everyone busy, man. We need that song, man. Just the two of us.
Oh, yeah, everyone else is making off. I'm not bad, eh? Oh, crap.
Well, no, I don't know, man. It just seems to be one of those weeks.
I guess,
it's that panda thing, dude.
Oh, Marge is buried.
No, actually, yeah, Marge just asked if we were going to be putting the dojo later, and of course we will be, so she'll be able to go and find it anytime. So. Yeah,
the PowerPoint I will put up on the dojo.
Yeah, we'll like I said, I'll help you next week. We'll figure it up a bit.
One thing I want to do, Dave, is...
Remember, folks.
I'm sorry?
Oh, sorry, man. I said we'll put it in the dojo for those paying member types.
Right. And also, this hangout may not be public for very long. It'll be in the dojo. I don't mind there, but at some point this will be a course, and part of another thing. So.
Repurpose, reuse, baby.
Anybody who has any feedback as far as using this kind of information as the basis for setting standards for what a SEO should know to be able to call himself one. Basically, SEO Pros is going to go to a testing to join. We'll also check to make sure that they're good people.
And that's it. You know what I mean? Like we've said this for years, but there's just so many things that you can actually put down into some sort of formalized certification or some whatever you want to call it.
For sure. All of this
is just a ton of shit that hasn't changed enough. That isn't about spamming Google. That is actually part of the fucking job, right? So it's like,
I've always felt that about the only thing that you couldn't test was content strategies, right, and link building.
Sure,
because those are the things that do change all the time.
And to a degree, most external factors, to a degree, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like a lot of them are hazy, and yes, we know PageRank exists, but what form it's in now and what the dials are at, etc., we don't. So, you know what I mean? Like anchor text, up, down. It's 1 year it's worth more, next year it's not. And, there's things like that are going to change. But like
if we know where
indexation into architecture, crawling, these are things that don't change. How to use an htaccess file for redirects, for managing sites, things like that. These are things that are standard and
those are in the upcoming thing. Hit access is probably going to be the bigger part of a full session.
Oh yeah, for sure, man.
Between that, understanding the different types of redirection and when to use each one. Those things are all testable because there are best practices and there's consensus around them, right? There's not too many people are going to argue about those sort of things.
And that's it, yeah. You're not going to have the kind of arguments that you would have with, what's a link worth? You know what I mean? You can argue that all day long, but these kind of things, again, these kind of things are fairly high level of consensus and confidence in what, the topic. So, I don't see why some of this stuff can't be put into some form of certification. God forbid I use the word, but I don't see why not.
Well,
Yeah.
Here's the thing. To me, I've always embraced certification. Why? Because that makes
No, it's because of all the fucking crap hats.
that makes us a real occupation. You know what I mean? It's a real trade. You know what I mean, Dave? I look at SEO and I think it could be use the same training methods as plumbers, electricians, where you start off with a master on the basic stuff and work your way up, taking knowledge courses and then going into the field and implementing them. I think that's the way to go. That in the way things are now, people just get dropped into situations and they're not really prepared, and there's nowhere for them to go to get prepared. So, I'm hoping that this can help that sort of thing.
Yeah, well, and again, it's a discussion that's been had forever, and I think we've often just had the same argument that there are plenty of things that we can put our fingers on. So, like how many keywords should you have on a page? That's
at least one.
That's it. Yeah. Well, maybe not according to search metrics. Just get lots of plus ones, and
Yeah, lots of plus one and.
Don't worry about keywords in the title or anything like that. Fuck that.
Right.
Lots of plus ones, man. Come on. Yeah. Well, okay, folks. I think we'll probably let you go.
We might as well take this conversation private now.
All right, bye, folks. If you want to come in and join us,
join,
link on the event page. We'll be here. Until next week. This is Terry and Dave signing off. Terry, see you next week.
Hello.